Hi, welcome to Shaky Sports Journeys. Thank you as ever for joining us. Please be subscribing free to the channel, much appreciated. Great guest for you today. Somebody who's done remarkably well in cricket for many, many years. And I'm talking about ex-Pakistani women's captain, Sana Mir. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Lovely to have you. How is this? I believe you're in Islamabad right now. How is everything over there?
All good. I'm really enjoying Islamabad, and I've got some work here. So enjoying the work also. So life's good. Alhamdulillah.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. So what I want to do is take you on a quick journey today through your cricketing career. I want to start by asking you a little bit more about your family background, where you grew up, etc., and how you got into cricket.
So my father was in the military, and we kept moving cities, and I kept making friends through cricket. I used to play street cricket with my elder brother. So I've told this a lot of times that whenever we go to a different city, my parents would be searching for a school, and I would be searching for children my age to play cricket with, or sometimes elder to me. So yeah, I mean, that's how fell in love with cricket. I watched it on TV. I watched it on the streets. I started playing with my brother, and that's how I started.
It's interesting. I've spent a lot of time over in Pakistan. My family is from in Pakistan, is from Lahore. So I know the street cricket you're talking about. I'm assuming there was a bit of tape ball action going on. But what I find interesting is my cousins, for instance, my girl cousins, they never partaked or were really encouraged to partake in going out in the street and playing with the boys who were playing tape ball. It was always male dominated. How was that for you?
Yeah, so mostly I was the only girl. But the difference was, firstly, my brother would accompany me and he had no issues. He would always encourage me, and my family had no issues with that. And secondly, we always played within the cantonment area. So when you are in the army, generally it's very safe. The cantonment area is very safe, and the people know, everyone knows each other. There are no unknown neighbors or unknown people around. So even being on the street, it feels safe for everyone in a cantonment, because it's a very limited number of families living there. So I think that was another edge I had, apart from a very, very supportive family. And um, and then I was, of course, I was a bit adventurous. Everyone knew that. So if there was some problem, I could deal with it on the street also. So yeah, so I think all these three things combined.
I like to hear it. I like to hear it. You were tough, basically. You were tough. You could give as good as you got. If somebody tried to give you a bit of chat, I'd imagine during a street tape ball game, you could hold your own. That's good to hear.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm really a big advocate of girls learning taekwondo at a young age. It's not that you go on beating people, but it's very important to have self defense. And I remember it was an optional thing in our school, and I was interested in all the outdoor physical activities, and the moment I started learning taekwondo, I think that gave me an extra confidence also on the street. I mean, I knew I would never start a fight, but I knew how to defend myself. So even though it wasn't required, but deep down inside, I had that inner strength that I'll be able to manage it. So I think that's something we can all, I mean, encourage our girls especially to learn. I mean, just to have the art of self defense. I think it can do a lot for the confidence of young girls.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I had on another girl from over in Scotland, Abtaha Maqsood, who I'm sure you're probably aware of, and
Yes.
she also learnt Taekwondo at a very young age. So I've got a daughter who's soon to be 2. I'm hoping I will follow her in your footsteps and get her trained in Taekwondo as well, because I would like to know that she can defend herself as well.
Yeah, I think that's a must. And it's always what was really great about taekwondo, where I learned, my teacher was really great. the first thing they taught me was it is all about self-defense. So it's not about being aggressive, it's not about learning to fight, but it's about being able to defend yourself. And yeah, I think everyone, boys or girls, everyone should learn it. Yeah, so I'm really hopeful that your little girl, when she grows up, is confident and is safe, and yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, Sana, when did you start achieving from just playing tape ball cricket? What kind of age were you in your youth when you started getting to play for some teams?
So that it's a very interesting thing, because I would only play with boys. I never knew that there were any other girls who would play, who are playing cricket. There's one girl, Sidra, who used to play with me on and off on the street, but there was no other girl I ever knew of that who would play. So my only concern growing up was that, okay, I'll be good enough for a Pakistan team, but will there be a team that I can play in?
Yeah.
So that would be my concern. But then I saw my mother basically saw an article in the newspaper. It was from the two sisters, the Khan sisters, when cricket was under them. And so I wrote, there was an address that you could give trials. So I wrote to them after 6-7 months. We got a reply, we got a date, we went for trials, and there were 80 girls
Wow.
there for trials, and I was blown away for the fact that there's so many girls who want to play cricket. And then after that, then I wrote to the then president Pervez Musharraf, because there was quite a lot of conflict between the two bodies, cricketing bodies. So me at age 18, I played my first hardball cricket at the age of 18, and 18 and a half I got my first trials, because then PCB took over, and the president was the patron in chief at that point. So he when I wrote to him about the two groups, and I asked him to have neutral selectors, so all the best players from both the groups, because the groups were fighting with each other. So my intention was that the best players can represent Pakistan. I was very young, but I just wanted that, because I met both the girls from both sides, and I really wanted the best teams to represent Pakistan. And then I got a call for the trials when I wrote that letter to the president, that where you should have neutral selectors, and you should ask both the girls from both the groups to come. So I was called in first, then Uruj was called, then Batul was called, and Sajda. So all the girls from the other group started coming into the PCB setup also. So that's how I started. And I think at the age of 18 and a half, I played my first hardball practice match. And then at the age of almost 19, I played my first game for Pakistan. So there were no pathways. It was very, so I learned on the job. I have to say that.
That's amazing. For an 18 and a half-year-old girl to have that confidence to write a letter to the Prime Minister and say, look, this is what I think would be for the best, which I agree. You have to bring all of, you can't have groups, otherwise it's going to struggle to be
Yeah, so
successful.
because I was very clear, I really wanted to play cricket. I really wanted to represent my country, and I really wanted to have it fair and square, to have neutral selectors, because that was the only way forward. Because otherwise, one group would not play with the other, the first group would not play with the second. So that meant that we would lose out on players. Eventually, we did lose out. Still, we did lose out on players, because it was not handled the way it could have been. But at least some of the good players did come into the other setup also. So I mean, it was not perfect, but it was as perfect as it could have been under the circumstances, just because a few players from one side came to the other side, and then we met each other, and we kind of realized that everyone just wants to play cricket.
Yeah, no, wonderful, wonderful. So you really are one of the originals. You paved the way for a lot of young girls who now aspire to, I'd imagine, be like yourself and play for the countries. I think it's really really excellent that you had that confidence. My next thing is, were you always talented as an off spinner when you were playing with your brother in the street? Were you an off spinner from a young age?
No, I was a medium pace bowler.
Okay.
I modeled my action on Wakari Yunus's action.
Okay.
I loved his run up and his Yorkers, and that's all I knew. There was a one single street lamp on the street we used to play in or play on. So in the morning, I would be my Wakari Yunus self running in hard and bowling all those medium paces. So throughout the day, 4 5 hours, sometimes we would play cricket and I would be bowling as a medium pace bowler. But after sunset, we would break for prayers and then come back, and it was dark and there was only one street light. So then we used to play spin bowling. We wanted to just keep playing the whole day.
Yeah.
So there at the night, whenever there was night cricket, so because there was only one street light and we couldn't see the fast ball, so everyone would turn into a spinner. So I learned off spin, I learned leg spin. So we used to keep doing all these variations and play just for fun and with different rules. So that's how I developed all the three different skills. But then I debuted as a medium pace bowler for Pakistan. My first wicket was as a medium pace bowler.
All right. Okay.
An in-swinging Yorker for Mitali Raj. I got my first wicket. I'll always remember that. But in a year, I just developed stress fractures in my back because I was not doing any fitness. I had no idea what requirements of fitness were needed. I just came off the street and started playing with the hard ball every day. So then I got injured, and then I was only batting and trying to remodel my fast bowling action. And it was a very long process. You have to start with the baby steps, with just to follow through or just to gather position. So it was making me frustrated. And I told the coach that I can bowl off spin. So I'm really fed up of just the shadow practice. Can I just bowl for just spin for some time in the nets? He said, okay, just come and have a bowl. I started bowling. I started getting everyone out in the nets with the off spin. And he was like, so then why do you have to be a fast bowler? We need an all-rounder. So you can just try it in the match also. And that's how I started as an off spinner, because with the leg spin, I needed more time to settle. And our Asia Cup was right around the corner. So I just started off spin because it was easier. It was easy to control on. And that's how I started an off spinner. But by the end of the career, 2018 World Cup, I did the leg spin also, and it became the bowl of the tournament in the World Cup. So I mean, I got to do all three of these skills while I was there.
That's amazing. I don't think I know any men cricketers who would have started out as a seamer, who bowled down spin, off spin, and then finished their career as a leg spinner.
I didn't become a leg spinner, but I had to add into the variation because as an off spinner, it was becoming very difficult in T20 cricket. So I just added a bit of variation with the leg spin.
Amazing skill, amazing skill. Let's talk about some of your achievements, which I could probably sit here and talk to you about all day, but we don't have that. We don't have that time. But to start with, you mentioned the Asia Cup. You guys, I believe you led Pakistan twice to the title, the gold medal, 2018, 2014?
2000, that was Asian Games.
Asian Games, sorry.
2010 and 2014.
Okay. So
that
was that against like the other Asian neighboring countries?
No, so the difference between Asian Games and Asia Cup is only for cricketers, and it's like 4 or 5 or sometimes 6 countries. And Asian Games is kind of a mini Olympic in Asia. So in Asian Games, any country who enters can participate in 50 different games. And then there's an athlete village. You get to meet all these athletes from around the world. And I mean, it's a huge thing, Asian Games. So when we were going in the first year, there were not the big names didn't come. India didn't come. Sri Lanka didn't come. It was us and Bangladesh and China and Thailand and these countries. But in the second one, Sri Lanka also came. So it was huge because in 2010, the first Asian Games, it was after 8 years that Pakistan won a gold medal in any of the 50 or 40 sports that we were representing in the Asian Games. So that became a very pivotal point in women's cricket, because before that, some people knew we had a team, others didn't know. But 2010 gold medal, almost most of Pakistanis knew that we have a women's team, and they've won a gold medal for us. That's how they knew about the women's team. So that became a huge milestone whenever we talk about the development of women's cricket.
Sounds very, put you on the map basically. You know,
Yeah.
people took notice. You know, you achieved something, and you know that's how great things happen. You can go on from there. As well as that, it's unbelievable when I look at your career. 226 caps, I believe you have for Pakistan. 137 of them, you were the captain of the team. It's just the longevity of your career. I find amazing that, you know, you debuted in 2005. You've only recently just hung up the boots, and we'll come to talk about that. But how did you, you know, keep that going for so long and in a position of leadership? It's not an easy task.
Yeah, it was. I never thought. Whenever I would see the leadership board before becoming the captain, there was one captain for 1 year, the other one was for 3 years, and I thought if I become captain, they would fire me after a year, because I I am so vocal, and when you are so vocal in a system which needs amendments all the time, sometimes you don't get that. Longevity or leadership. So I was very lucky with the kind of uh, leadership I got when I became the captain. The first person who made me the captain, the chairperson, was Shireen Javed, late Shireen Javed. She passed away by because of cancer. May God bless her. So she brought me on, and then after a year or so, Bushra's Etizaz took over, and a lot of my leadership and a lot of the development of the team has to do a lot with the leadership of Bushra Etizaz also, because she was a strong woman. She wanted all of us to be strong, and she was not insecure like other people in leadership, that she was able to give us authority and then hold us accountable. And I love that kind of leadership, because then then it's enjoyable to work, because you have the authority, you can make decisions, and then if someone asks you, then it's appropriate. But sometimes people don't give you the authority but want to hold you accountable. So I was very lucky in that sense, that I had her at the start of my career, Bushra Tazaz, as a mentor, also as a chairperson also. So 5 years under her, she was very upfront. She would tell me what she liked about my leadership and the team. She would tell me what she didn't like about me as a leader, or as a player, or within the team, whatever culture. So we had a very direct, frank relationship, and one that was very I mean, it was very nurturing also, in the sense that I grew as a leader through these 5 years. So I think we were at the development stage. We would play very less cricket, sometimes 4 matches a year, sometimes 10 matches a year. So all, of course, the leadership also at PCB knew that we couldn't judge the team or the leadership through that. So they were satisfied. I was satisfied. We kept pushing for things. Then 2009 I became the captain. 2010 we won the gold medal. 2012 we beat India in the World Cup. 2014 we won another gold medal. So things were performances were coming, so they also thought that it's better. Even in 2016 we beat India in the World Cup in T20 in India, and I came back and I wanted to give up the T20 captaincy, and the PCB at that point didn't want me to. But I insisted. I said that it's very important for me to groom the next leader before I go, because I don't want to create a vacuum that as a player I go, and then as a leader I go, and then the team has to settle. So I really insisted on stepping away from the T20 captaincy. at that point. So I mean, all I can say is that the group responded really well. The players under me, Motashim Rashid was a great coach. We spent 5 years together under Bushrat Azaz, so it was very consistent leadership with Bushrat Azaz and Motashim Rashid and myself. So all three of us were there for 5 years, and I think that's the key of building a DNA of a team. Because after that, everything changed very, very quickly, kept changing, coaches, captains, things like that. So then the team becomes a bit unstable. So I think, yeah, I mean, that much I can say. The rest you can ask the other people why I had that captaincy for so long. But yeah, I mean, from my perspective, that would be the case.
Well, sounds like Bushra was an amazing mentor to you, and you welcomed that chance to evolve yourself as a captain, as a leader, as a cricketer. And I think you're right. It needs to be like that. You need, but the person at the top needs to practice what they preach. And it sounds like Bushra was very much like that.
Yeah, because the intention was from her was for us to grow. So when the intention is that you are direct and you tell people where they falter and where they can improve. But when the intention is just to get rid of a person, so you never go and tell them what they should work on. You just start reaching out to other people for replacement. So what I really liked about our relationship was, and that's how I have been with my players also. Before dropping a player, I would definitely give them few months if it was within my reach to select or not select a person. I would have that very direct relationship, tell them that you have got like 3 months, 4 months, 6 months to work on something, and if you cannot, then you might be replaced with someone. So if you can communicate like that with the player, they have a trust in the system. But sometimes players know about their selection and non-selection through media, and no one communicates with them. So that's very harsh for them. So I mean, I really like this kind of leadership where you can talk to people eye to eye, tell them what they can do better, and that's how I think things should be.
I wish I had a captain like you when I was playing national, international cricket. It's really refreshing to hear. I think that kind of attitude needs to go across the board. And I'll be honest and say, being a Pakistani cricket fan, it's not always come across like that from the men's setup. And I think if that, comes through more, I think you would have less conflict between players getting left out, speaking out in the media, and causing a little bit more of a mess. So I hope to see Sana Mir involved in the PCB more at some point and helping the gentlemen out with their man management.
It didn't even happen with a lot of women cricketers. Even I didn't get the same treatment that I wanted to give to others. But that's how life is all about. But yeah, I mean, I keep telling all these things to people, and whoever want to apply it, implement it, it's good for them. But in the, I mean, ideal world, it should be like that players should know what they should do better. And if someone then doesn't agree, there were so many players who would be in denial. They would never accept what our observation was, and they will still have that conflict. But at least then in your heart, you know that you have communicated to them. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's a healthy way to do things. One of the next big things is Sana, first Pakistani women's bowler to take 100 wickets for her country. As well as that, you're the first Pakistani woman to play 100 T20s. Two amazing achievements. You must be very proud. Your family must be very proud of that.
Yeah, I mean, these individual milestones, I have to say, I never really kept count until I was on the 99th wicket, and I knew now I need only one. So yeah, that took some really good catching and a lot of support from the team to get to that. But yeah, I mean, what really was for me, if there was a personal milestone that really satisfies me, it was to reach the #1 ranking through my bowling, what you're talking about, 100 wickets and all. And in that, Mark Coles, who's also the Scotland women's coach, he had a very pivotal role also to play. My mentor, Shabano, my parents, my team also. Because when Mark came, he gave me the new ball to operate. And with the new ball as a spinner, I became quite lethal. And I really enjoyed taking that challenge, being that attacking, having that attacking mindset, because even as a spinner, I thought as a fast bowler. So because that's the kind of competitor I am. I am aggressive on the field. So that really helped me and the team. And we won some really good games, and I was able to reach that number one ranking. And why it was extremely important for me was, even in my own, whenever I used to aim for something, it was even in my own thinking was something very big, because as an Asian athlete, generally people um, don't reach, females have not reached to that mark. If they reach, they sometimes, in tennis, Sania have reached that with another partner in doubles, but as a single tennis player, she has not reached that mark. In India, Mithali and Goswami uh, have been number one, but they have a very, very strong setup as compared to our setup back home. So even when I used to try to dream about it, it was still not very clear, but God was extremely, extremely kind. And I got a great mentor in Shabano. She really helped me with the mental side of things. And Mark really gave me a lot of opportunities. I had enjoyed my relationship with Bisma, the captain at that point, and we all knew what my role was. So it really was really good for myself, for the team, and for the next generation, who can now say, okay, if Sana can achieve that, I can achieve that. So that's breaking that barrier in my own mind and in the minds of young girls from Asia. I think that for me has to be the biggest thing.
Yeah. Shout out to Mark Coles. I had him recently on the podcast. It was Mark that kindly gave me an introduction to your good self. So I must thank him there. And it's great to hear that he had such a good influence. I'm hoping he will have he's already done very well with the Scotland
Already
team.
done.
Yeah,
Oh,
so it's
yeah.
exciting times. You've talked a lot about, when I say to you about your own personal achievements, you're very humble with them. And, I can tell it's more about the team with you. And we have spoke about the leadership element a few times, but something else that must have given you a great deal of pleasure was the fact that during your time as captain, it wasn't just yourself in 2018, that amazing to get to number one bowler in the world, but 8 other Pakistani cricketers got into the top 20 rankings during that time. That, as a leader, must have given you so much pleasure.
Yes, for my personal achievement, that number one was the best thing. And as leadership perspective, in my leadership achievement, I always nail it down. You have nailed it down. I always keep that as my first priority, because I mean, my first biggest achievement, because I feel that developing more players is a bigger feat than winning a match, even in a World Cup. I mean, people say that beating India was big, beating England in a T20 was big. Yes, they were big, but for my own self also, in 2014, December, I think it was, when 8 of our players were in the top ICC 20 ranking. And yes, for me, that is one of my biggest satisfactory moments in cricket as a
No,
leader.
it's a great feeling when others achieve. You strike me as a person that would never have just been looking in one direction. You would have always had your eyes either side of you, looking at your teammates, how you can help, how you can improve them. And yeah, that must have been a great feeling to see all the rest of the girls achieve something like that. And I hope in the future as well we get a lot more Pakistani girls coming through.
Thank
What was
you.
the challenges like from a mental side of, playing cricket at the top level is not easy. You're always under pressure. You're always under the microscope, especially somebody like you who's a leader, one of the front performers of the team. Did you ever have moments where you doubted yourself, or you were under a lot of pressure and you felt it was a bit too much?
Yes, at least 3 times I wrote my resignation and thought about quitting and going away before finally doing it. So that was the 4th time. But before that, it was a lot of times. And yes, it was extremely tough. It was extremely tough because people expect so much from you in this part of the world. They love their cricket. And that's why we are very blessed that everyone noticed us, because I see a lot of other teams around the world, they play so well, but cricket is not the biggest sport in their country, so they don't get that recognition. So with that recognition in Asia comes a lot of pressure and expectation and criticism and politics and everything else. So yeah, it has been very tough. There are no two ways about it. With the lack of resources, with other teams uh, improving so rapidly, trying to have that in mind, trying to keep pace with that, then fighting with the system, sometimes fighting with the culture. So all that was very, very tough, has been very, very tough.
Well, you've done remarkably well. You're obviously a very mentally strong. That taekwondo from your youth, your support of your family is obviously
Yeah.
giving you the strength to go and take on those challenges. So credit to you. So you passed on the captaincy to Bisma around, I think, 2017. You mentioned that already, and you said that it was a good transition period. You knew your role within the team and that you wanted something like that to happen so you could be part of her transitioning into a captain. How is that? How has that been for you? And how's that? Do you and Bisma have a very good relationship?
So yeah, I mean, I've seen in Pakistan cricket that when good leaders leave, there's a vacuum, and then for the next 3-4 years, the team sees a dip, and then they rebuild themselves. In women's cricket, I felt that if we dip, we won't be able to keep pace with the global game, because we have to work really hard, to, to to put it simply. So I was very conscious about the fact that there has to be no dip. So I cannot leave just like that. I want to have the next leader learn from me, ask questions, because it's very different to be a driver and a passenger seat driver. It's very different when you are the vice captain and the captain, or the captain, because once you come into the captaincy role, then you kind of understand the decisions very differently, and that's what I saw happening with Bisma also. So I was very happy to be there for her for a couple of years, and that's why I think we, under Mark also, 2017 to 2019, we performed really well, because there was one thing was Mark came with very fresh eyes and fresh ideas, and the other thing was that within the team there was no friction. I gave it up willingly, and Bisma had the support around her to navigate through the difficult times. So I think that's why it happened very smoothly, for the team also and for us also. So I would just say that it was really good that after leaving my when I left the captaincy, they, at that point, no vacuum was created, and I pride myself for that, because it's not easy to play again as a player under other people's leadership. Even though Bisma was very respectful, all the players have been very respectful. Mark was great. He always knew that he would involve me in the leadership group, but still it's kind of a challenging thing to do. But I loved every part of it, because it was benefiting the team and also me personally as well as a person.
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes for your character. You see so many players in world cricket when they leave the captaincy, there is maybe friction with the new captain. That kind of transition period becomes complicated. I think your character was that ultimately that it was the team that mattered. You wanted to help Bisma, go into that role, and so again, credit to you. I can see now after talking to you, I followed a lot of your career and I've seen what you've achieved with personal and your team. But I can see now talking to you why you've been so successful. You're very forward thinking, and you know what things need to be done. And you're right. Sometimes you need to ruffle up some feathers to make a change. And I'm glad that you were allowed to do that. I'm sure it was difficult a lot of the time, but you've obviously powered through and help make those changes. So it's amazing. As we come to the back end of the podcast, just a couple of final questions I have for you. You took a break in 2019, and then you chose to retire in 2020. Did you take the break to kind of process things and see how you felt about leaving the game, or was there any other reason?
So it was a bit of both. I also wanted to 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 see where I needed to go. So in that perspective, it was kind of a personal break also. But I also couldn't understand the vision of the women cricket leadership at that point, because 2 or 3 months before the World Cup, our roles were not defined. And when I tried to have a communication about that, I couldn't get a clear answer. So in my opinion, if you really, and we had a very good chance in this World Cup. Our pool was as such that we had beaten those teams before. So I was very, very passionate about qualifying for those semis in this World Cup. And I had a very clear thinking that now, 3 months at least before the World Cup, our roles should be clear. But as it happens in women's cricket, most of the times before a World Cup, there's so much pressure to change the coach. There's so much pressure to change the team around, because everyone wants to play the World Cup. Everyone wants to coach in a World Cup. So things become very pressurized. And if the leadership is not strong enough, then they make these changes, or not well equipped enough to think through things. So that's what happened. Mark had to leave. I had to go. And then, of course, in the World Cup, after the one game, we couldn't do as well as we could have. So at that point, I realized I had decided at that very point that I would walk away, but I didn't want it to impact the team. So that's why I kept it was my father's basically advice that even though whatever happened, you should announce it after the World Cup, so the morale of the team doesn't go down. So a lot of my leadership has to be given credit to my father and the values he has instilled in me, and my mother. So that's why I waited till the World Cup was over before I would announce, because I knew that the girls love me and they respect me a lot, and it would directly affect them if they know that I would no longer be there. So I just had to wait till the World Cup was over. So it was 2020 then when I decided to step away.
How do you feel? We're in 2021 now. You're retired. Unbelievable playing career. How are you feeling personally in your life? Are you happy?
I'm very happy. I'm very grateful to God for whatever He has given me. I've always said that He has always given me more than I deserve. So I'm extremely happy with where I'm at. And whatever happens in your life happens for the best. So that's how I view life, and that's part of my faith, submission to whatever decisions. So it was tough in the beginning to submit and to come to terms with things, but with my support network, with my friends, my teachers, my family, I'm so blessed to have such beautiful network, alhamdulillah. So because of that, I got the strength back. I got opportunities, came into commentary. Now I'm having my own sports show on the national television. Not my own sports show, but I'm part of a panel. So I mean, I can't say I can't be more grateful for wherever life has led me, and that's how I've always been. When was injured as a fast bowler, then also I thought, even though I loved my run up and I loved Waqar Yunus's action, and I didn't want to give it up, but at that point also I just submitted. But that's something I can't do for now. And then God gave me so much more as a spin bowler. So that's how I that's how I see life. And so yeah, it's been really good, alhamdulillah.
And I've been following your commentary. I watched the recent T20 National Cup. Great coverage on YouTube. I was able to watch most of the games in Scotland. You're excellent as a commentator. How are you feeling being in that situation now?
Yeah, it's been very tough at times, and it's very new. But again, I've got some great people that keep helping you. Alan Wilkins, I got to commentate with him. He was very helpful. Grant Elliott was extremely helpful. Pommy Bangwa was extremely helpful. Then I got to work with Mike Hazeman. Then our own Pakistani people, Sikandar Bakht, Ramiz Raja, they were all always very helpful. Zainab has been presenting, so she would share stuff with me. So yeah, I mean, if you put yourself out there that you want to learn, there are so many people. You'll be amazed at how many people want to help. So I mean, all I can say is that I'm learning it, and I'm working on it, and I'm really enjoying the process.
No, I think you're doing excellent. Speaking to you today on the podcast, it's been extremely refreshing. I think you're a wonderful role model. I seen you done something not so long ago with the Cricket Scotland girls as well, and you had a chat with them. I think you're excellent. I look forward to hearing more of your commentary, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for you, Sana Mir. But massive thank you from me to
Thank
you
you.
for
Thank you.
for coming on and chatting to me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I know you've got busy schedules ahead, so keep doing what you're doing. It's great to see.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Love being here. Thank you.